We drove on Saturday morning into the town of Warrenton, and we couldn't make the left that Google Maps was telling me I should make at the rental car because it was blocked. There's a police blockage, and we had to drive through. One side of the street was Black Lives Matter protest, and the other side of the street was an All Lives Matter protest. And it was fascinating to drive through. And then I realized after we had parked in this sort of quaint little town in the middle of what seemed to me like nowhere, oh, we're going to actually have to walk back through this protest, and that'll be interesting. And I wrote about this also in this evergreen piece that I wrote for Natural Selections this week. We ended up on the side of the street just because of where the restaurant was with the All Lives Matter protesters, and talked to a couple of them. And while we were talking to a couple of them, one of the other All Lives Matter protesters started just kind of throwing a fit and yelling, and he was standing in the street and he was yelling at the Black Lives Matter protesters. And Zach and I were saying to the two people we're talking to, who were very calm, and were making, frankly, in many ways, a lot of sense. He said, that's not helping. That's not helping anyone here, but it's certainly not helping you send the message that you're actually interested in everyone moving forward into the future with some freedom and justice. But of course, all movements have their unhinged people, and in this case, the unhinged person happened to be on the side of All Lives Matter, and it's unfortunate whenever it shows up anywhere, but that was the case there. We talked to these people, and they seemed honorable, and they were faithful. They, in fact, one of them was quoting scripture at me, which I didn't find compelling as an argument for why all lives should matter, but any more than I find appeals to authority when it's from the CDC compelling on their own. But it was fascinating to also observe that if you just took like nice mugshots, like if you tried to do like profile portraits of the people, the Black Lives Matter protesters looked more like people that I see in the coffee shops around here, who I imagine I might have more in common with, who, probably think about eating locally and eating organic and probably want to spend a lot of time outside and all of this. And yet the things that they were chanting were the usual Black Lives Matter chants that I know to either be not what they claim or to actually be inconsistent with other things that they chant, given what's been on their website and, and much of which they've taken down. But, all of this is happening in a sort of an exurb of DC, an hour out of DC, like very far outside, but in a context that I never foresaw. I never imagined that we would run into Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter protesters in Warrenton, Virginia. And then we went back, the whole team went back, and, I and one of the other parents, the other parent who was an actual chaperone, and the team, like the person from the school who's like the mentor sort of, went back to like what was it called? Carousel, Zach? The sweet shop, which was its own cultural extravaganza. And I thought, this just reminds me of nothing I've ever seen before. This is the place where everyone in the town comes for Saturday night and gets desserts that I don't recognize even as food. And none of the other sort of Portland kids are like, it's a deep fried Twinkie, is it? Okay, I'm not sure I want to eat that. So the whole thing was a little bit like traveling to a different country in some regards, and then to have sort of people from a different country, but still with the Black Lives Matter and the All Lives Matter people facing off against one another and yelling at one another. Okay, so there was that. And then the next day we went, I'd gotten us an Airbnb for the night in DC, and we went first to Arlington, which was super easy to be in. Arlington had all the little cafes and the good cappuccinos and all the stuff that, that I think I like, and it was just easy to walk where they had great bagels, right, Zach? And then in DC, we had, let's see, I sent you 3 pictures, right, Zach? Yeah, you want to show first SCOTUS? So we walked by the Supreme Court, and it was this was a Monday morning. So I guess this is the next morning. It was a gray morning. There was clearly a lot of signs of there having been protests over the weekend. But while we were there was just one lone protester who had a backpack on from which she was blaring some sort of very angry music. And I can't read it from here, but her sign says something like, she's pro-choice, right? But then the other signs, which again, I can't read. I wonder if you could put it on our little screen here, Zach. No, you can't. Well, maybe you can. So I don't remember what's on the signs, but the one that's most, yep.
Her sign says "My body, my choice."
My body, my choice. Okay.
Are you interested in the very odd sign?
Yeah. So just tell us what one of them says here.
I read them there, I remember.
Okay.
So there was trans rights start at conception.
Trans rights start at conception.
And also gay rights start at conception.
And gay rights start at conception. And then I think the one lying on the ground says something like atheists for life.
Yeah.
And all three of those signs are just not what we were expecting. And they speak to some protest that I've yet to see any evidence of elsewhere. And the idea, trans rights begin at conception. This causes so many errors to be thrown right away that it's really hard to even know what to think. And, maybe the point was whoever designed that sign and was carrying it was trying to throw errors in the minds of pro-choice protesters, or they were just themselves very confused, or I don't even know what. But this is the Supreme Court of the United States. Everyone.
That's a perfect indicator of the level of confusion of the moment, almost no matter what explains it.
Yeah. So I guess actually the night before, then the next picture, Zach, is of the rainbow over the White House, which we saw. If you can show it, yeah. We had gone to the National Portrait Gallery, which was fascinating. There's a Watergate exhibit at the moment, which is quite worth seeing. And we walked through the presidential portraits and we're learning some things. I had been there back right when the Obama portraits had gotten there, and they're now on the move. So they weren't there. So Barack Obama wasn't there. And there is, I imagine, a sort of temporary one for Trump there. But the bios, they have 1 or 2 paragraph bios for all of the presidents. And the farther back you go, the clearly less politicized, they are, but they all seem pretty straightforward. They all seem to pretty much describe the facts until you get to Trump. And I wish I'd taken a picture, or, I could tell you exactly what it said. But, as we've said here before, I'm not a fan of Trump. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for the other guy in the last election either, but I haven't voted for him. And the description of him in the National Portrait Gallery was so politicized and so not reflective of actually a description of what it is that he did as president. And any fair analysis of the things that he accomplished includes some things that all Americans should be able to get behind. No such things are mentioned. And what is mentioned is January 6th. And do you remember, Zach, if the word insurrection is used? I don't remember. And I don't want to misquote.
I don't remember exactly the word insurrection.
Yeah. So that struck me as a tragic disappointment in one of our most important national museums to have it be politicized in this way when this is supposed to be about portraits of presidents.
Yeah, in fact, it's decidedly unwelcoming of some large fraction of the electorate, which
half the electorate.
This has become the nature of our system, which is, at least on the one side, there is a sort of sense that people who disagree are not entitled to the full rights of citizens. They're not entitled to have their president objectively memorialized. It's preposterous. How could this possibly end well?
Yeah, no, it's not okay. It's not okay. So from there, we walked to dinner, and then we got sort of stuck in a thunderstorm, and we got told we needed to leave from in front of the White House, and it seemed like something interesting might happen. And so Zach and I hung out there for a while, and nothing interesting happened, but we did see this rainbow.